It's time for the MotoAmerica AMA FIM North American Road Race Championship. This round is MotoAmerica Superbikes at New Jersey. From New Jersey Motorsports Park, our final round of racing and our final race of 2024 from Millville, New Jersey, as we set the stage for Supersport Race number 2, with the championship having been decided yesterday. The gloves are off. It's time to get after it. Welcome, everybody, to New Jersey. Welcome to the broadcast. Welcome to the broadcast booth. I'm Greg White, standing alongside two-time national champ Jason Pridmore. So, Jason, yesterday's race was very interesting. We've had an interesting weather weekend here as well, but Matthew Skoltz was able to wrap things up.
Yeah, he did. He's had a phenomenal year, and I think now that the championship's wrapped up, we'll see a different Matthew Skoltz today. He's going to want to try to go to the front, but the big question for me is, can Blake Davis repeat what he did yesterday? He had pace on everybody yesterday, Greg. Came from 18th on the grid, was lucky to get a red flag, found himself up on the front row, made the most of that yesterday, and went on to win his first race.
And race 1 highlights. Jay, take us through it.
Yeah, and you're going to see here Corey Alexander was early to the lead with Mason just behind him. It was the two teammates, both Corey Alexander and PJ Jacobsen, who really had to win to have a chance to stay in this championship. Here's Blake Davis going through on Ty Scott, and then he goes through on Matthew Skoltz. And he went after and chased those guys, but he was some 6-7 seconds down when that red flag came out. So when the race restarted, it was PJ going to the front, but it wasn't long before the 22 really stamped his authority on this race. Blake Davis was fast in a couple spots on this track that were really key. As you see the two teammates now battling for second, Corey Alexander was able to slide up underneath PJ into turn 1, and it was close to the finish. Corey did everything he could to try to get on terms with that Yamaha R6, but for Blake Davis, he gets his first win here at MotoAmerica, and this guy comes across the line, has to look back to see Jake Lewis there. That 5th place finish, though, secured him the new champion for 2024.
And for Matthew Skoltz, that was an awesome result. But for Blake Davis with his first career Supersport win, here's how his career has unfolded. 2018 AMA Youth Road Racer of the Year, the Nicky Hayden Horizon Award winner, 2 Twin Cup championships, and of course, he is Yamaha's new golden child, his first win of 7 podiums and 3 consecutive this season. So definitely all eyes are on the young Blake Davis. But let's welcome the third member of our broadcast team, Hannah Lopa, into the mix, who is down underneath cloudy skies on the grid.
And I'm here with PJ Jacobsen. PJ, for you, what needs to happen during this race other than winning for you to feel like it was a successful last round?
Yeah, for sure. You know, getting a good start here would be the key to this race. But yeah, we'll see how the race pans out. But honestly, it's my home track, so I would like to win and get one more win here for the cap off the season before it ends for the whole XPEL Rahal Ducati Moto team. We have XPEL here, and you know, Graham's watching at home, so it's really good to be a part of this whole program this year, and I'm happy with my team and super proud of them, and hopefully we can kind of cap it off with a win would be great.
Best of luck out there for PJ Jacobsen. As he mentioned, it's his home race. Being from New York, it's the closest we come to New York. But I want to talk to a true New Jerseyan, none other than Joseph Lamondre Jr. This is his home race. He lives just up the road here. Just saying some good luck here, if I can interject. Joe, this being your home race, a 7th place finish yesterday. Take us through it. What's the plan for today?
Man, it feels so good to be back. I can't thank my whole Boss Racing, UTR Racing, and Space Jam team enough just for getting me here. This is where we belong. It's been a tough journey just waiting to get here, but you know, it feels good to be back. We got hopefully another dry race today, and let's see what we can do. I just got to thank everybody that came to support my helmet, TCR Racing, and DeCarlo Fence, Scott Power Sports, everyone that's supporting me this weekend. Let's get some.
Best of luck, guys.
Bazooka Joe got to get after it here at his home race. I love hearing that. And of course, when we talk about home race, we're talking about the racetrack, the Jersey Motorsports Park. This particular track, 2.25 miles long. It's got 4 left-handers, 8 right-handers. It's got a little bit of elevation. Plenty of places to pass, both on the brakes and on transitions from right to left, left to right, if you've got tremendous corner speed. And it's got brand new asphalt that's providing some outstanding grip for these riders, whether it's wet or dry, and that has given us fantastic racing. But why don't we take a more intimate look as we head off to break. Matthew Skoltz, your new national champion. He wears the number 11, but he got the number 1. Can he do it again? The gloves are off. It's time to in after this.
You know, it's funny, Roger, as we continue here on MotoAmerica Live Plus, the amount of talent that comes out of this area of the country, but you have the New Jersey Mini Cup that's based out here at New Jersey Motorsports Park. A lot of these kids just grow up and are able to ride consistently each and every weekend.
Not only that, we mentioned how many that's here this weekend, and competition, it just makes you better. You know, you get really good other kids. I think that's what's going to be really cool about the Talent Cup next year as well, is you need to be around other fast kids. That's how you get quicker and watch the bigger ones and get on track with them, and you know, not always win, and it just elevates. So it's really cool to see. And then they come here this weekend. Some of them haven't even did the whole season, but they come here in MotoAmerica weekend, like Joe Lamandry, and shows the speed that they have.
It's a pretty full field of Supersport riders, and we've seen that over the course of this season, nearly 30 out there on the grid this weekend alone. But when you think about traffic and what can come into play over these 19-lap races, these are long races. There's a big mix of experience out there.
Long races, short track. That means toward the end, you're definitely going to run into some lappers, and that this place is not easy to pass. So you're gonna, you know, a lot of guys like to be the first one to the lappers. They feel like you have a better opportunity to make the pass and not get held up there. This guy here on screen would like to end the year Tyler Scott with the win as well.
Starting back on the third row is Tyler Scott. He was able to finish inside of the top 5 yesterday with that 4th place finish, so it was a strong result for him.
Great qualifying for Riston Gregg there too, right there, qualifying 8th.
Saw that number 48 very briefly. That was Max Van up into Supersport for this season, looking for another solid result for himself. But you see Blake Davis, he's always focused, but he's always excited as well. He really understands the opportunities that have been presented to him, and he's done everything he can over the course of the season to continue and take advantage of them.
Yeah, he's got to have some really good first couple laps, make a lot of moves early coming from 18th.
It's a long road ahead for Blake Davis. He was able to capitalize on it yesterday, getting that very first Supersport win for himself, and that Into Bobbleheads team a lot to carry into the offseason. All the riders now clearing the grid for this warm-up lap. With the wind blowing harder now than it has throughout the weekend, what are the markers that riders look for here?
They're just trying to feel the wind, and then also the grip level too. It's a little bit cloudy out. They haven't been on the track since this morning, so they just want to you want to push it a little bit on this lap. You don't want to crash, but you also want to be able to learn something and figure out what the track conditions are. Look at Corey Alexander out there, you know, kind of with his head down already, just trying to get a good judge for how the track is.
You see Kayla Yakov there following Corey Alexander around, everyone making their way back to their grid positions. Get ready for race.
MotoAmerica Supersport coverage is brought to you by Dunlop, the official tire of the MotoAmerica Championship Series. And by Yuasa Battery, manufacturing in the USA since 1979.
Back at New Jersey Motorsports Park, Supersport Race number 2, warm-up lap, as riders will get some heat in their tires and then take to their grid position. And this is how they qualified and where they're going to be lined up. Skoltz, Mesa, Alexander, your front row.
Then we have PJ Jacobson, Kayla Yakov, and Gerardo. Back to row 3, we got Ty Scott, Riston Gregg, Max Van. Jake Lewis is going to head up row 4 with Enriquez. Then we're going to go back Collins, Hobbs, Silva, LaRoche, Blake Davis, and David Anthony. Horney, Singh, Soltis, Silva, Sneed, and Logan Monk will be just outside of row 8. Row 9 is going to see Joel Ullman and Gus Rodeo.
So it looks like we lost, I think, Jared Nisani from yesterday's grid position, who was in 8th place, and that moves everybody up. So that's why Riston Gregg, if you watch yesterday's race, gets to go to the middle of row number 3 with Max Van moving up to row 3 from 4.
How do you think Matt's going to do today? Think now the championship pressures are gone. You think he takes a real run at another win today?
Full send?
Yeah.
I think so. I mean, it's kind of his style. If he's got the pace, he's going to go full send, and we'll see if they've been able to make some changes from yesterday. Of course, yesterday's race was our first opportunity at real good, solid, dry time. 19 laps scheduled for Supersport Race number 2. When those red lights go off, we're rolling. little bit of movement in the box from Corey Alexander, but no advancement. But the 23 looks like he got a really good launch. So there goes Corey into turn one, and it looks like Mesa's going to slot himself on the Tytler Cycles Kawasaki into third spot. So it's going to be Corey Alexander on the Ray Hall Ducati Moto with roller, die, and forming, who's going to lead us through the first couple of corners here at NJMP.
I spoke with Corey a little bit last night and this morning. They were trying to find some changes to make to that bike, to just some of the areas that he felt like he was losing some pace or losing some time to Blake Davis as his teammate PJ Jacobsen slides up the inside there in turn 4. Matthew Schultz having a look at Mesa, not quite there, but they tried some things this morning for Corey. They didn't really work the way they were hoping, so I think they've gone back to a setup that they were more familiar with from yesterday's race. So also looking at our tire chart, looking the riders have choices of tire-wise, Greg, R7 or R8, and depending on the compound that you would like to run. Mesa's on that R8, which is a little bit harder compound. We saw him have a couple little slides early in the race yesterday that kind of sent him back. So keep an eye on Mesa, especially as the race goes on. He's on that R8. Majority of the field are on that R7 rear tire.
And if you look at the top 10 in points for the season, only Mesa's the only rider in the top 10 in points who hasn't scored a podium so far this season.
Wow. Yeah, that's incredible. You would definitely think that Mesa would be on the podium at some point, as he's getting a challenge right now from Matthew Schultz. See Matthew Schultz, leather's flapping around a little bit, but Mesa's really strong into turn 1. I saw a few people yesterday try to make that pass on him into turn 1, but he's really good about getting that thing to the point where he can let go of the lever and roll off into there. So right now things already look a little bit better for the 37 than they did at this time yesterday.
Hey, fans of MotoAmerica, you pick your favorite riders for a chance to win money. Available on your favorite sportbook and daily fantasy sites like DraftKings and Underdog Fantasy. Visit nxtbets.com/playma for exclusive sign-up bonuses for new players and receive bonus cash. Available in legal states. Check out nxtbets.com/playma to see where you can play in your state.
Blake Davis, Greg, is up 5 spots from where he started and qualified at 18th. So he found himself on this first lap up into 13th place. So we'll keep a little bit of a track on him, on his movement forward. You can see these front 4 guys now just trying to split themselves a little bit from Gerardo. Really, the biggest problem was these conditions that we had to qualify. If you're asking why Blake Davis was so far back, same thing with a guy like Jake Lewis, who we saw win last time out at COTA. We had some really iffy kind of conditions here the other day for qualifying, and that's why our grid looked a little bit turned around as it normally would. So you see Ty Scott here working on Gerardo as they come out of that last corner. Ty Scott's going to try to get in the draft and do something with the 161 as they get down here into turn number 1.
So PJ Jacobsen, Ray Hall Ducati Moto with Expel rider leading the way, 123.0, fastest lap of the race for PJ, 123.2 for Corey Alexander. Strack Racing Yamaha R6 for Matthew Schultz, a 123.2. Mesa at a 123.2 as well, slid back to third fourth after they crossed the line in third. Maxi Gerardo on the 161. He's having a good run on that EasyHealthPlans.com Top Pro Racing GSX-R 750, but there goes Ty Scott. Vision Wheel M4X Star Suzuki. A nice move under Gerardo to take over 5th.
One of the few places here at New Jersey that you can really set up a pass early as you come up on that little wheelie bump out of the turn 3B section. Go into that fast turn 4, let the bike roll, and you can set yourself up on the inside as Matthew Schultz has now made his way through on Corey Alexander as well. So just kind of like we thought Matthew would probably have a bit more of a go today. Very unlike him to finish where he was yesterday. I'm sure it felt weird for him, but he did exactly what he needed to do yesterday, Greg, to make sure that he wrapped this championship up. Now he's going to chase down the guy he's been chasing all year. There's what I'm talking about, Greg. As soon as someone opens that door a little bit, you saw Matthew go up the inside of Corey, and you see Ty Scott go up the inside of Max Gerardo. Corey looks over his shoulder. He's got Stefano Mesa right behind him. Mesa's in that draft, and let's see if he makes this pass on Corey as they head to turn 1. He will make it.
Yeah, that was a bit of an unusual look over his shoulder for Alexander. Huh, Hannah?
And Greg, Jason mentioned some of the changes that they tried this morning weren't the right direction. One thing they're looking at is linkage is such a challenge here under heavy load on acceleration. Just gives unpredictability with grip. So they tried a new shock this morning they're hoping could be a positive change for the race. Corey also mentioned to me that it's a very right-handed track, so shifting here is not an issue for him like he had last round, although he is still wearing a size smaller boots this weekend.
Yeah, it's pretty funny just seeing, there's things that Corey has to deal with because of his size, Hannah, that a lot of other guys don't. And, you know, it's detrimental in some ways. It helps. In other ways, it hurts. And there's a good look at Blake Davis as he's come up behind Max Van, who's running 8th right now. Max has shown some really nice pace here at the end of his season also, and he's riding up there with that group of riders that I feel like he thinks he should be riding with. You see him just behind Kayla, but Blake Davis is going to try to ride around the outside of Max Van as they get up here into that turn 9-10 area. He's not going to make it there. Blake is up to 9th. Greg's doing 23.5, so this is the difference between having some clear out front like PJ did at 22.5. Blake Davis is just trying to come through all this pack. He's got Jake Lewis right behind him currently as well.
We got 15.5 laps. There are 15 laps to go now in Supersport Race number 2 as Matthew Skoltz trying to chip away at PJ Jacobsen's lead. Up front, he was able to claw 0.2 of a second back in that 1 second lead at Corey Alexander around Mesa. After coming across the stripe, Mesa had 3rd, so Corey trying to figure it out, get this bike dialed in. The one thing to remember, too, about the Ray Hall Ducati Moto team, with Expel out front and, of course, with Roller Iron forming with Corey Alexander, is the fact that this is a first-year team. You know, I think oftentimes we forget that this team is still trying to figure out all the settings. Now, there is some technical partner that's available, you know, for a little bit of information here and there from the team that won the championship last year, but these riders significantly different. PJ, obviously, Corey Alexander sitting at 6'4", probably closer to 6'5" at times, coming in at over 170 pounds. And Hannah talked about the ability to shift that motorcycle. Part of that has to do with the design of the Ducati. You see Jake Lewis, who's back there and won a race at Coda. He stands about the same height as Corey Alexander. One of the biggest differences, though, is that for Jake Lewis, the GSXR 750 is a little bit more of an open motorcycle. It's designed for a little bit larger of a human being, and there's more adjustability.
Yeah, for Corey, the Ducati is obviously pretty small. I've watched him really for some time now try to get used to that. And look at this, Max Van's got through on Kayla, as has Blake Davis. Now Max finds himself up behind Gerardo. So for Max right now, up into 7th, looking at 6th place directly in front of him. He's showing he's got a lot of pace because Blake Davis has been behind him for a couple of laps now. So for the 48, you know, the next person he wants to get through is a guy that we've seen on the podium this year. We've seen Gerardo on the podium. Blake's got a good run on him. We saw Max make a small mistake there in that 3B section. Let's see if Blake does anything here with him. Nope. So he's got plenty of pace through there. Then you got Kayla, Jake Lewis, and then we have, of course, Joe Lamondre Jr., who we talked about top of our show. Hannah did an interview with him. Just great to see him back here. And you can see right now, Greg, he's running 11th. So he's running just outside the top 10. And he's only done a handful of races this year at the club level. So for him to come here to MotoAmerica shows that they've got a good bike underneath him right now, and he's proven it.
As the 22 continues to try to work his way forward, out front, the 122.365 was Matthew Skoltz, taking another 0.3 of a second out of the lead, Hannah, and that's not really going to do great things for the 22 trying to advance.
There's definitely a lot of laps left, and the thing for Blake Davis is that he knows he can make his way to the front of the field because he did it yesterday. Another thing he mentioned to me, a little bit of like a rider superstition thing, if you will, is he said he's doing as much as he can the same today as he did yesterday. So even eating the same food, hoping that it will bring him just a little bit of luck.
Now there's something we don't often talk about, rider superstition.
Yeah.
Jay, did you have any when you raced?
I think we all have them at certain things. Mine were not that quirky, to be honest with you, but you know, if I found things that a pair of socks or something that I won in, is Matthew takes a shot up the inside of PJ Jacobsen. It's pretty fitting, Greg, to see these two guys at the front of the field. You know, what do they got? 3.6 seconds, and PJ takes a shot right back at Matthew. It's kind of the way that the year should end, I feel, with the two guys that kind of dominated the championship battling it out here at PJ's home track.
Yeah, so PJ Jacobsen loses the lead for a second. Skoltz has a look over his shoulder somehow and sees that PJ's not giving up the lead. But yeah, you talk about superstitions. I know that some riders like left boot on all the time, left glove all the time, only get on the left side of the bike. There's all kinds of funky superstitions that riders have. Especially when you have a good result, right?
Yeah, especially if you have a good result, then you just start to think about things a little bit different. What did I do to get this great result? But for Matthew right now, he's got to feel freed up after yesterday, and that's why he's able to take the fight. Also, I want to make a mention: Ty Scott has pulled up onto the back of that battle for third as well. Just in case there's any Ty Scott fans out there, as we watch this great battle up at the front, Ty Scott has found his way onto the back of Corey Alexander and Mesa.
Yeah, and Blake Davis is now advanced to 6th, as you can see on the left part of your screen. And also you can see that gap that Ty Scott has to Mesa now, 0.044 of a second. So the lead, P.J. Jacobson. This is the battle for the top spot as Skolt's going to go around again. Left-hander on the brakes will take the #1 position for the moment. Is P.J. going to battle right back? He's up, no room to go up the inside that time.
No, not that time. And for Matthew, that spot looks really good, and we've seen him be able to put this R6 anywhere on the track as far as the nimbleness of that bike. And you can see just starting to pull away ever so slightly. PJ will take notes right now of the places where he feels where Matthew might be a little bit quicker. So for PJ, it's going to be really crucial for him to get through this last quarter of the lap, maybe get a little bit of a draft down that front straightaway. But, this is where Matthew's going to put his head down. See, as PJ just opens the door up just a little, he just turns that bike over to the right. I mean, he's not wide, Greg. He's in the middle of the racetrack. He's right, kind of a mid-track line there. But Matthew just kind of makes a straight line and is able to go up underneath. You see on the right side of our screen, PJ is back onto the back of Matthew. And the left side there, he did try to make a pass on that turn 6 the lap prior, is where he was able to get back underneath. So now we'll pay attention to the lap times. 23.1 for Matthew that last time by. His best has been a 22.3. So almost a full second quicker he has gone.
Yeah, but P.J. Jacobson just set his personal best Sector 1 split, chasing Matthew Skoltz at a 22.658. You want to know speeds here at New Jersey Motorsports Park when it comes to Supersport machines? Well, if you're in a draft, you're over 155 miles per hour as PJ goes right up the inside, as there was a couple of bike widths available for him to do that.
It's a really interesting place to pass. It shows that PJ's got a bike that works really, really well right out of turn 5 there, because it's passing down into turn 6 isn't easy. Turn 6 is a corner that goes downhill away from you. Very easy to get in there too quick. And, Matthews had to look over his shoulder. I'm sure his pit board is telling him he's got 5 seconds over that battle for third, but he had a little look over his shoulder just to kind of solidify that. And you're going to look at PJ in this last quarter of the lap. Very fast through the last quarter of the lap is PJ.
Matthew has a long look over his shoulder just to make sure there's nobody behind him. That could be something that has to do with strategy, or it has to do with the fact that maybe Skoltz could be losing some grip. I think it has to do with strategy, meaning, okay, if I hang back here, what do I need to do? Or do I need to attack him right away? If I attack him, is somebody going to attack me? So Skoltz has a look, and PJ had a look the lap before. So both of them are aware of that 5-second gap back to Corey Alexander, Mesa, Ty Scott.
Let's see if PJ tightens this up going into 5 this lap and moves over to the left ever so slightly and makes it a little harder. Yeah, so that time there, Matthew wasn't quite as close. Maybe Matthew, too, could just be making the decision now. Let's just follow. We got nobody behind us pressing us. Let's just see how PJ's tires start to work out over this next 5-6 laps. Here's that battle for third. You see Ty Scott on the 70 up behind Mesa and Corey Alexander. Really good to see Stefano Mesa being able to stick in there with this podium battle today on that Kawasaki 636. The stat you gave earlier, Greg, of Mesa not being on the podium this year at all kind of caught me off guard, because we're so used to seeing him up there. So right now this is going to be obviously his last chance of the year, but he's got a really good shot here battling out with those two guys.
And of course our front runners, and Skoltz winning the championship, 8 wins on the trot with 14 podiums. P.J. Jacobson, 6 wins with 13 podium appearances. Jake Lewis has a win in 4. Blake Davis has a win with 7 podiums. And back there, Ty Scott's got a win with 4 podiums. And you have Alexander with 4. Yakov's got 2. Gerardo's got 1. And Hobbs, Teague Hobbs, also has 1. That's your top 10, with Mesa being 7th in the points and winless and podiumless. So there's a lot on the line for Mesa. Looking forward to next season. Not really sure what he has lined up. We know that for P.J. Jacobson, and his Rahal Ducati Moto team, they're all set with the 3-rider lineup they have. As for Strack Racing and Matthew Skoltz, we haven't heard much about what Skolt's plans are for next year. We know that Skoltz has an eye on possibly a Superbike ride, JP, if that presents itself, as we have some Superbike rides that might be opening up. Still a lot to be decided in this offseason.
Well, for sure, Matthew, both these guys would love to be on Superbikes. I feel like with PJ right now, he's found a home with this Rahal team. First-year team, they come out, they've had a lot of success. And they've got 3 really good riders on their team at the moment. It sounds like they're going to stay and do exactly, they've already had that announcement. They're going to stay put and do what they're doing this year. And who knows, in the future, maybe we'll see a Rahal Ducati Superbike up in the mix, or maybe in that case, any one of these riders like Corey or PJ in there. But for Matthew, for sure, he wants to get back to Superbike. He's taken that year off. He's shown that he can come down to this class, go out and win, which is what he has done. And, for him, Matthew, that's where he feels like he belongs.
And Jason, this season, obviously we know that these two have been the class of the field as they come up. Looks like there's some lap traffic ahead. But did you know that these 2 riders, PJ Jacobsen and Matthew Skoltz, have finished 1-2 9 times this season? Skoltz winning 5 of those 9, PJ winning 4 of them.
Yeah, it's pretty wild when you think about it and how much winning these guys have done. And we've seen them, at the Ridge. We had a little tussle at the Ridge there when Matthew went up under PJ. PJ did a nice job at Laguna Seca with a last lap pass down into turn 10. And then we both saw them make little mistakes at Coda in our penultimate round of our championship that really kind of blew the championship more open as far as the points go. So, Matthew yesterday, we talk about how emotional he is as a rider and things, but I thought he did a tremendous job controlling his championship yesterday, winning it, getting it out of the way, not making it come down to that last day of the year type of thing and having to sleep on that on a Saturday night. So, now you're seeing, the pace that Matthew has had all season long. And really, both these guys, like we've said numerous times this year, Greg, they've been the class in this field. We've seen a few people dip their toes in and try to get near them, but for the most part, it's been these 2 guys.
Here they come across the line. It's going to be 7 laps to go in Supersport Race number 2. And the gap back to Corey Alexander. Here comes that battle for 3rd. So Corey comes over the stripe about 8 seconds back. But all eyes are going to be on Blake Davis. He's pretty far back, 3.5 seconds. But in the last 2 laps, Blake Davis has been able to make up about a half a second on the group of Corey Alexander, Ty Scott, and Stefano Mesa.
It's going to be a tougher one today, though, Greg, because we've only got, maybe 6 laps to go and there's 7 laps to go. So it's going to be a little bit harder for Blake because you're going to get a look at here. 22 just came from a long way back, and with the quality of our field, it's not that easy to just go through and pass a bunch of guys that aren't that much slower. So it took a little bit of time. Yesterday he was able to get through guys a lot quicker, and when he got to 3rd, we had a red flag come out. It was probably about this time yesterday, wasn't it? About 7-8 laps to go. So the thing is for today, 22 finds himself far back. He's at 12.3 seconds. He's 3.5 seconds off that battle for 3rd. As you see, Ty Scott now has taken up that battle with Corey. Stefano just dropping back ever so slightly now. So, Stefano's got to try to keep his pace up to try to, get himself a top 5 here, because Blake is definitely right now that last lap through. He runs 23.1, his fastest lap of the race for Blake Davis.
And you can see left part of your screen that PJ has extended his lead on Skoltz by just over 4/10. That's on the back of a fastest Sector 2 split time that he did earlier in this lap, fastest outright. But here comes the 70. Nope, no draft and pass for the Vision Wheel M4 X-Star Suzuki rider, Ty Scott. So PJ Jacobsen out front, though, went fastest lap of his race, Jason, a 1:22.574, and just set a Sector 1 personal best split time. But Matthew Skoltz is settling in that half-second gap. But the gap to these two has grown now to 9 seconds. So with the way that this race is unfolding, with about 5.5 laps to go, this looks like the battle for the final spot on the rostrum. Corey Alexander, the 23, and Ty Scott, the 70, as Mesa now starting to lose touch. And for Blake Davis, starting 17th is just, it's insurmountable when you have this depth of field like you were talking about, Jay.
It's difficult, and the reason why it's difficult here at Jersey as opposed to some other tracks is once you get into turn 1, it becomes pretty single lined up over through turn 2 and 3 and all that stuff. Until you get to turn 5, you kind of really got your first passing spot. So it's a little bit harder to weed your way through people here as opposed to, you know, another track even like Dakota's a little single lined as well after you get through turns 1 and 2. But you go to some places like, you know, Laguna or even MotoAmerica where you can make up that time, especially at a place like MotoAmerica where you can draft a number of riders before you get down to turn 5 there in Wisconsin. Ty Scott goes through on Corey Alexander, so he gets a good run out of that last corner, and he sticks that Suzuki in front of Corey. So now Corey's going to go to work back here on Ty Scott. 23 flat last time by the way, for Blake Davis. He goes 23.3 this time. So he's doing about the same pace as these two guys here. About 2/10 quicker, but not enough to really make a difference.
Final Supersport race of the 2024 season. 18 race championship for this category. New Jersey Motorsports Park, 5 laps remaining in this MotoAmerica Superbikes at New Jersey weekend. Vision Wheel M4 X-Star Suzuki's Ty Scott has taken over 3rd place from Rahal Ducati Moto with roller die informing Corey Alexander. A home track for Alexander at Ossining, New York. Just about, I don't know, hour and 2 hours, 2.5 hours up the road. It's hard to say.
Tyler calls this place a home track for him too.
Yeah, he's Pennsylvania native.
So both these guys kind of probably have a lot of family and friends here at the track with them. So, you know, getting that final spot on the podium, especially at the final race of the year, it definitely sends the year off with a lot better feeling going into the off season.
Onto the front straightaway they go. And Corey Alexander got a good run as Ty Scott has a long look over his shoulder just to check out the situation. As Corey Alexander going to go right up the inside and take 3rd again. PJ Jacobsen had extended his lead to nearly a second. It was like 9/10 of a second, and Scholz is able to claw back 3/10 last time by the stripe. But PJ continuing to push the issue out front.
I feel like looking at Corey Alexander's position on the bike right now, body position, he looks like he just wants to go lay down a lap right now. You can just kind of see it. So you can see he's opening up a tiny gap to Ty Scott. So I'm expecting this to be a rather fast lap for Corey. We'll keep an eye on the screens, but just judging by how he looked coming out of turn 1, going to turn 2, he just looked different on the bike, like he's going to try to throw down a qualifying lap right now. And he has. He's gone yellow in his first sector. Nothing in the second sector to show, but you can see he's definitely opened up this gap. He makes a small mistake there, though, by running just a little bit wide.
But, but a heads-up move for Alexander, too, because you can see when he made that mistake, he got it up on the meat of the tire so he could get the most out of his drive as well.
And Mesa's kind of coming back into the picture as well, so good for Stefano, trying to just keep chugging along here. And last lap through, 24.1 for Stefano. He was actually quicker than the 2 guys in front of him. But the guy behind him, 23.5, Blake Davis, he's still trying to catch these 2 or 3 in front of him right now.
3 laps to go as 3rd place, 23, comes across the line. He goes 1:23.6 to a 1:24.2. And now we're ratcheting back as we see the 19 of Kayla Yakov. And there is Joe Lamandry Jr., Bazooka Joe. He and Kayla have been racing it up. A little bit of contact as Lamandry going up the inside. So also a home track for Yakov, and she just eases right up the inside on Lamandry. Boy, that is a pass that we have seen. That seems like that's a pass that's been generated quite a bit of more confidence since the new asphalt.
Yeah, definitely not easy to do it in that section, but you're right, Gray. I think the riders have a lot more confidence, and good job for the track here at New Jersey for doing such a fine job, because it's allowed the riders to have a little bit more places to try to put the bikes and get those passes done.
Jason, I think it's funny how many riders in the field we've said this is their home track. There must be something in the water in the Northeast. But for Kayla Yakov, something we talked about a little bit earlier in the weekend is that it's the end of the season, last day of school vibes, and she feels like she can take unnecessary risks. So she's going to lay it all out there. Not that she doesn't usually.
Well, in addition to that, she's actually scheduled for ACL surgery on one of her legs as well. So something that she's had for a while. And so she's going to be heading off to about 3.5 months of rehab. So Kayla's trying to make the most of the riding experience when chances are she's going to be off the bike for nearly 4 months.
Here you go. So Corey Alexander, is he up the road? It looks like
he's split.
He's looking like he's split from these guys, but I don't see it. Yeah, is he that far out? Is he? So 2.5 seconds he opened up, 23.5 to 24.8. So Corey just laid down a lap and just removed himself from this fight. As you see, Blake Davis now has definitely found the back of Mesa. So yeah, Corey goes through our shot, and now Blake Davis is going to try to find his way through on the 37. No room there. But yeah, when you go back and talk about Kayla too, Greg, I think that the job security that she knows she has for next year is allowing her to go into the offseason and get that fixed. She's been riding because she's needed to be riding, and I think it's great that she's got a home there with that team as Blake Davis looks down the inside, didn't quite get there, but just to close that off, I'm glad to see her get that knee fixed, and she'll come back stronger than ever next year. This guy's got a gap.
He definitely does. It's now larger than 1.1 seconds. This is going to be the white flag for P.J. Jacobson, who said at the beginning of the show that he wants to cap this season off with a W at his home track.
Yeah.
Like Hannah said, there's a lot of riders here, home track. That has now gone to 2.2 seconds. And here comes Corey Alexander. When he comes across, it's 14-1, but he has absolutely yarded the rest of the field, has Corey Alexander on this 3 time trial laps he's been putting down.
Yep, and Mesa's still fighting. I love it. So he's got to keep fighting Blake all the way here to the checkered flag, because Blake had to look down the inside, wasn't able to do it, go back to PJ, and this is really the way PJ wants to close out his year. I saw him do a small interview apologizing to his team and his sponsors and to the people that have supported him for so long after his accident at COTA, Greg. And you know, these guys are all pushing, aren't they, all the time, and that stuff happens, and this guy has nothing to hold his head about this year. He's ridden really, really well.
So for P.J. Jacobson, what a storied career he's had, up and down here in this series, back over in Europe, BSB, World Supersport. Only the second American rider to be on a World Supersport podium. The first, trivia question, the guy next to me, Jason Pridmore. But P.J. Jacobson having a good run at it here. The team set for next season. After an outstanding year for the Ray Hall Ducati Moto team, P.J. Jacobson caps it off with a victory.
Matthew Schultz finds himself finishing second, and Corey laying down those laps there towards the end, 3 or 4 to go. He's coming out of the last corner now, Greg, and we're going to see him finish third. So Corey Alexander ends up third to get a couple of those Ray Hall bikes. Ty Scott ends up finishing fourth, and I think Blake Davis just got Mesa at the line.
They did by 42/100ths of a second. Mesa ends up 6th place behind Davis. Kayla Yakov, dead heat with Joe Lamandry. Dead heat. We don't even have a gap between Yakov and Joe Lamandry. That's going to be a photo finish.
Wow.
They both finished 30.264 seconds behind your leader, P.J. Jacobson, and the gap between Yakov and Melandri doesn't exist. So we'll have to see what MotoAmerica deems as timing and scoring.
It looks like
it looks like Kayla.
It looks like Kayla. It does. It looks like Kayla by a wheel length.
That literally could be the placement of the transponder.
Correct.
Different placement on the bike transponder, but it looks like Yakov is going to get it, and that's actually the way it's set. So it might not show up on our screen, Jay, because it's like over 1,000th of a second.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's wild.
So this is what we were talking about. Schultz and PJ finishing first and second 10 times, both of them winning 5 times apiece.
Do you remember how this team started at Daytona?
I certainly do.
I mean, it was shocking when we went down there, and obviously bringing Ben Spies in has been great and things, but they had some big work to do after Daytona, and this team came in, and by the time we got to Barber, I think it was Barber or Atlanta.
Yeah.
And you know, they made some huge strides, and obviously before Barber, and then that's when this team really started to go forward. I think PJ did the double in Atlanta, and they went off to Barber, and they really made some big turnarounds. So this team going into the offseason, as you look at the top 3 today, this team going into the offseason, Greg, you got to think they've got their riders buttoned up, they got their manufacturer buttoned up. They're going to be ready to go testing and be ready even more for next season.
So congratulations to P.J. Jacobson. When we get back to NJMP, we're going to have a chat with him and see how his prediction on the grid went.
We continue with you here on MotoAmerica Live Plus as we watch P.J. Jacobson pull in to celebrate this win number 7 on the season for PJ, 14 podium results. And he wanted to carry this momentum into the offseason. Now this whole team has something to work with, Roger.
And he's got the momentum, and, you know, for what he did today, I mean, went out there and put so many quick laps in, able to pull out a couple-second lead. And as you said, I think for this team, they got a lot to build on after this first year. Now they have, you know, a couple months to really prepare and get better going into next year. But it's been impressive what they've done, and for PJ, this make him go off in the off-season feeling pretty good.
You saw our champion there, Matthew Skoltz, able to finish second today, also credited with having the quickest race lap. It was a 1:22.365 for Matthew Skoltz.
And Matt put up a big fight. I'm not sure, maybe he ran out of grip there toward the end. His lap times kind of dropped off a little bit there, but he made a good charge. He made some good passes. He took his shot at the top, but PJ was just able to kind of maintain a little bit more until the end of that race.
See Corey Alexander there pulling into the podium area for the 5th time this season. He wasn't able to compete in all of the races as he did suffer an injury, had to sit out back at MotoAmerica, but a solid end to the season for Corey and certainly some momentum going forward.
Yeah, really solid for Corey. You know, Supersport, the bike, and all this stuff. We talked about how tall he is, how hard it's been to kind of get him comfortable on the bike. Getting here on the podium, you have to think they can either make that better. It's part of the Ray Hall team going into next year, so a lot to build on. His home race, his home track, a lot of friends and family here. He's, you know, to be able to get on the podium. He looks a little disappointed, and it's probably the gap that he's back, because he really felt like he could fight for the win. But solid performance for him.
You know, one note on this win for PJ Jacobsen, mentioned the fact that it is his 7th win of the season, but for PJ, this one comes with the largest margin of victory over second place.
We haven't seen PJ and Matt, one of them, be able to really break away like this, especially for PJ, and he's able to do that today. And you knew PJ was going to lay it all on the line. Even early on in the race, he was pushing really hard, and Matt made the move. He was trying to fight back right away.
A rider that you don't see up there inside of the top 3, Blake Davis, coming off of that win yesterday. We talked about the fact original grid had to start back in 18th, but all the way up in the 5th again, Roger.
Just impressive what he's did, just that qualifying, you know, not able to get that good lap in. It's going to be a little disappointing, but you think coming from 18th in a grid that's this packed, all the way up to 5th, and it was pretty close to 4th there at the end.
That win yesterday, and this being his first season moving up to the Supersport category for Blake Davis from Twins Cup after winning that championship last year. Be exciting to watch him continue to grow as well. We're going to hear from these 3 riders and send it back over to Hannah, Greg, and Jason.
Back here at New Jersey Motorsports Park, celebrations are beginning after our final Supersport race of the season and our second here in Millville, New Jersey. And PJ Jacobsen, your big winner. Take a look at these results. As Skoltz in second, Corey Alexander, Ty Scott, Blake Davis, man, from 17th to 5th. What a ride for him. Mesa, Yakov, and Melandri. You saw that photo finish. Teague Hobbs and Maxi Girardo. But our race winner, PJ Jacobsen, is with Hannah down in victory lane.
And guys, the weather held off just in time for the conclusion of this race. PJ, a really great performance by you all around. How badly did you want to win this final race of the season?
Yeah, I wanted to win it pretty bad. Like, the season's been so long and stuff like that. And then Schultz getting the championship yesterday, so congrats to him and his whole team. He worked really hard all season. But, yeah, I just wanted to really finish off the season. You know, we have Mike from Expel here, the guys from Elf. So it's good to just get a win and really close the chapter to this whole first season here and finish on a really high before we go into next season.
Speaking of going into next season, I mean, with job security and winning the very last race, how are you feeling?
I feel pretty good right now. I was pretty bummed out yesterday, and then we kind of had a team dinner, so it was kind of sad, like saying goodbye to everybody and all the hard work they put in all season. So it's good to be up here and give it one last goodbye before we cap off this season. And yeah, I'm just really proud of the whole team, the whole Ray Hall Ducati Moto team. Graham has done a great job. Richie Alexander has done a great job. Ben Spees, Brittany, everybody a part of the whole program has done a great job. So I'm super proud of the team.
Big congratulations to PJ Jacobsen. Second place today goes to Matthew Skoltz, our newly crowned champion. Matt, tell us about your race.
Yeah, it was a pretty decent race for me. I've been struggling with my dry pace all weekend long. I don't think I did better than a 23 something. You know, I think we did one or two 21.9s, 21.8s then, and then the rest were in the 22s. So, I mean, we made big steps forward, but obviously I would have liked to have won and close the championship out in style. But overall, just really pumped to bring it home in second place. Well done to Corey and PJ. I think both of them got a double podium here. It was a hell of a battle all season long, and just looking forward to 2025. And thank you to the Strack Racing family. They've been awesome, and it's been a brilliant year for me, and I think it's just onwards and upwards from here. Thank you.
What is your hope for 2025? Do you have a specific direction in mind yet?
At this stage, I'm just worrying about having fun tonight, celebrating the season. I'll worry about 25 tomorrow morning.
One day at a time for Matthew Skoltz, your newly crowned Supersport champion. Rounding out the podium, a great weekend for Corey Alexander. A really intense battle with Ty Scott there. How'd you pull it off?
Yeah, I mean, the team gave me a great bike. The whole Rahal Ducati Moto team, powered by Roller and Forming. Honestly, the bike's been phenomenal all weekend. I think we were pretty much in the top 3 every session without that first one. Just have to give a huge thank you to my whole crew. Steve Weir, obviously, has been a huge part of our team from the data side of things, and Tim, my chassis mechanic, DJ, my lead technician. It's his last race, so it was really important for me to get on the podium for him. Richie, Brittany, Graham, just everybody, the whole team is. It's been an amazing year. So yeah, I mean, as far as the race goes, you know, I had nothing for those guys. I mean, I was doing everything I could, and I kept doing consistent lap times, and they just keep getting further and further away. I'm like, I don't know what times they were doing, but they were going fast, and stoked for PJ to end the year off with a win after, you know, losing the championship. So good for him. And again, thanks to all my personal sponsors: Sal's Pizza, Detail Doctor, Dell's Flooring, JLS Mechanical, Prestige Services Group, just everybody, Arch, Terry Campus. I got a lot of people supporting me every year, and I really appreciate it. Kaylin, my girlfriend, just everybody, the whole team, my whole family's here, my mom, my dad, and my grandparents. It's really special to have them here. You know, you never know how many more years we're going to be able to get to do this. So really excited to see everyone, and we'll get to do it again next year.
Corey, it seems like you're always on a motorcycle, even when it's not. Big cheers from the crowd. Even when it's not on a race weekend, what are your plans for this winter?
Yeah, we're gonna head back to the West Coast, get on a flight on Wednesday, and back to work to make some money this winter. We do a lot of coaching stuff at Chuckwalla Valley Raceway, and the whole Garage Ocho gang. We got 10 guys we hang out with all winter, and we have a blast out there. So looking forward to it, and spending more time on the bike, and just trying to get better for next year.
Thanks, Corey. Guys.
All right, that's a really good plan. Of course, keeping on the motorcycle is always good, because the next thing you know, it's March. Our coverage from New Jersey Motorsports Park will continue when we get back from this commercial break.
It goes by so fast, Roger. 9 rounds, 18 races of competition now going into the offseason for the Supersport category. As a past rider yourself, what did you do during the off seasons to get yourself ready for next time?
Especially if for these guys that are going to be on this same team, you know, you talk to them and have a meeting like where can we improve, and you kind of sit down and you lay out whether it's, you know, crew, your schedule, your testing, the whole thing. You just kind of get together and you sit down and you figure out where you need to improve as a rider as well. You know, it could be a lap time, it could be consistency throughout the whole race. So that's the big thing, and then you start working on it. You know, if you need to change a few people around, you do that, and then just start working on those weak points and try to make those weak points your best points, and just continue to evolve as a rider and a team. There's never really a peak, and you know, when you start peaking is when you kind of start going backwards. So you just always want to keep trying to improve.
It's been no secret all season that with the full season edition of Strack Racing to the Supersport grid, as well as Rahal and the Ducati organization bringing out 3 strong bikes each and every weekend, the competition level was elevated in Supersport this year. Going into this offseason, knowing now what that gap was to the rest of the class, what work gets done behind the scenes? I
think for the rest of the guys, they're going to have to find some speed, you know, whether it's the bike or the rider. So, you know, that's going to be the big thing. And we've talked a lot about how PJ and Matt has really elevated this class this year. And so I think everybody knows that you know, the pace is higher. They got to see it this year. You can hear it and you can think that they're going to come in and be strong, but until you get out on track and you see the speed and the way they're able to get out front the first lap of the race and keep that pace all the way to the end.
7 race wins this season, but despite being a multi-time winner, PJ Jacobsen still soaking this one all in. Let's go back to Greg and Jason.
Let's take a look at how race 2 unfolded. It was, well, from start to finish, just a solid race.
Yeah, it really was. Corey Alexander got the early jump. His teammate went up underneath him in turn 4. You see Mesa, Skoltz there. Gerardo was there. Top 5 early. PJ put his head down and got to the front. Matthew Skoltz went up underneath Corey Alexander, and at the same time, Ty Scott was doing the same thing to Gerardo on his way forward. Ty would end up finishing 4th. Matt Skoltz took a few shots at PJ Jacobsen in that same place, turn 5. See it here once and did it again. PJ kept fighting back, though. I think once he was able to see where Matthew was strong and maybe not so strong there in turn 6, he was able to make that pass stick. Ty Scott did get up to the front and battle with Corey Alexander. And then you see here, Lamondre Jr. and Kayla Yakov coming together. Those two had a very close race, Greg, as we saw in our photo finish interview, or our photo finish pictures. But at the end, is PJ Jacobsen winning the final race of the year in style here at home at New Jersey Motorsports Park.
Yeah, we'll have to see how the stage is set. We know PJ's going to return to the class, but what of Matthew Skoltz, and who else is going to be joining us in Supersport next season that's going to be a front runner? But as we look at our final championship point standings for the season, the total tale is going to be Matthew Skoltz with 360, PJ Jacobsen with 331. So that championship won by 29 points, done and dusted. Blake Davis able to move himself up to third in the championship at 212, and Jake Lewis at 202. Well, your thoughts on the season?
Great season. I mean, like watching both those guys do what they do, I'm very curious next year to see how Blake Davis does. I'm interested to see how Kayla is after she gets healthy and they come back. Ty Scott as well. We're not exactly sure, although we have an idea where he's going to be. And how about Jake Lewis finishing 4th in the championship for Altus Motorsports with a race win? All in all, there's a lot of stories when you just look on this first page of the leaderboard, including Gerardo, who I thought put in some amazing efforts this year as well for that top pro team.
All right, so we have more coming at you from Supersport Race number 2 as podium celebrations begin. PJ Jacobsen and his team get to celebrate, and we will after this.
Continuing here at New Jersey Motorsports Park, while the Supersport Championship podium is now being assembled. You can see there in 2nd place, PJ Jacobsen. After these hard-fought battles all season long, Matthew Skoltz, of course, there crowned yesterday, standing on the top step, and Blake Davis with the charge he was able to put on over the course of the season, but especially here towards the end, Roger, he finds himself sitting in 3rd.
Yeah, and I mean, Blake can just, you know, look over and see the competition that he was up against. Matthew Skoltz, PJ Jacobsen, Superbike race winners that he was battling with all year, you know, ended up 3rd there. Race win yesterday. I think he can just see that and build on it. And I like to see the sportsmanship between PJ and Matt there. After the race, they kind of gave each other their respect and told the other one and the team good job, because they put on a show this year. What they did and the way they pushed each other, and some of those races that they had were so fun to watch.
See Peter Strack there, the team owner of Strack Racing, holding that trophy high. He's not going to let that one go easily. But for Peter, and you think back to the start of the season and rebranding everything at Strack Racing and really bringing it all together as a team and going for this championship title. There's so many other elements that go into it behind the scenes. It's not just what we watch out on the racetrack. And for that whole team, really all 3 of the teams that are up there, but for Strack to be able to take the championship into the offseason rewards all of those efforts.
And for them, it's not like Strack's been around for a really long time. They're relatively another new team that's starting to do the full season. So they've come a long way in a short amount of time, but you said it, the work that goes in all these teams to get their riders up here, putting everything, building the bike, getting the right crew, it's not easy. And all those team owners and the guys behind the scene, they spend countless hours. It's not race weekends. I mean, it's every day, 7 days a week, trying to work on that program to elevate it.
You see Ed Sullivan there on the box also. It's the crew chief for Matthew Skoltz, came with them from Westby Racing over in the Superbike category. I talked to Ed yesterday afternoon after they wrapped up that title, and he had so many good things to say about this whole organization. Congratulations all around.
MotoAmerica Supersport coverage is brought to you by Dunlop, the official tire of the MotoAmerica Championship Series. And by Yuasa Battery, manufacturing in the USA since 1979.
Number 1 plate for Matthew Skoltz, and he gets that cool Dunlop guitar as teams get to celebrate. That's what the championship looks like this season, 1, 2, 3. So, Jason, as this championship is all done and dusted for 2024, let's talk about the influence that 2 really high-quality race-winning Superbike riders have had on Supersport this season.
Yeah, well, they pushed the pace a lot this year. The racing was tight. We had some dramas as well, which was always fun for us to be able to see. But at the end of the day, you saw how well our PJ congratulated Matthew there at the end, even on the cool-off lap. Both those guys just rode so well this year. And, you know, to see Strack Racing come in, put a full season together, and get a guy like Matthew Skoltz on board, I remember seeing him at Daytona, and he was just so happy that he had a ride. And then he went out and did what he did, and I think that's a true testament to him and the team.
All right, this is what 2025 has in store for us. We're going to start off April at Barber Motorsports Park. Then we're going to Road Atlanta, Road America. Then we go to Ridge Motorsports Park. Then we go WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna Seca. We're back at VIR August 1 through 3. Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course to Circuit of the Americas, and wrapping things up again at the end of September at New Jersey Motorsports Park. We're so excited about 2025. What an outstanding season we had. MotoAmerica Supersport 2024. It came down to the final race weekend of the season, and we can't wait to see how it's going to unfold. What new talent is going to present themselves? What older talent is going to remain here? PJ Jacobsen right now has got to be the favorite. Make sure you stay in touch with all the information on MotoAmerica.com. For Hannah and Greg, I'm Jason. See you next year.